All right, well, heaven help us. We just saw Legends of Oz, Dorothy's Return, the new animated spectacle of a movie. The way this show works, we will tell you quickly whether we like the movie or not, so that you can decide if you want to go see it, want to go check it out. And then we will give you the chance to stop the video if you want to go see it before we get into spoilers and talking in more detail about the movie. So this movie has kind of an infamous reputation as being a bad movie, something that's should have been direct to DVD that they somehow went and got distributed and released to theaters. And I can agree with that. I think it definitely doesn't. It's not of the caliber of something that goes on the big screen. The fact that they did it is fine. I'm sure there's people that are entertained by it that haven't, that it's a good way to kill an hour and a half. But it wasn't really for me. My 4 and 6-year-old would probably enjoy it just fine. They would probably be entertained by it. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing that you couldn't, take your kids to go see it. But as an adult viewer, there's really nothing to recommend it. And it's also in that category of it's not so bad it's good, it's just not very good. So that's kind of my spoiler-free take on it.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, obviously not geared towards many adults in the sense that it's going to keep you fully invested and interested. So yes, children would enjoy this, or maybe like the kid at heart, would get into it. But honestly, if I want to watch The Wizard of Oz, I'm going to watch The Wizard of Oz, the classic piece. The animation aspect of it, didn't really sell it as this other grand adventure. I don't know, I might even watch The Wiz, or Return to Oz.
Yeah.
There's so many other options, I feel. So.
I think this is probably better than Return to Oz.
Yeah, that is pretty weird.
Just from all audiences sort of perspective.
Sure.
But yeah, I can see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So yeah.
For the young ones.
Definitely for kids, for kids. So that's our quick review. We'll dig in a little bit more. So if you want to stick around, if you're not worried about, learning more of the details of what's wrong with this movie. So to start out on the positive side, so I had the impression that the animation was going to be really, really bad. Yeah. And a lot of people on the internet are ripping the animation apart. And really, the animation's not that bad. It's Toy Story 2 era, of style. Some of the human animation is really weird, especially right at the beginning. But it's also very stylized, and it you get used to it pretty quickly. It's not terrible from that aspect of it. The characters the voice actors that they got to do it, all for the most part do a really good job. Mm-hmm. Martin Short is fantastic in this, with very little to work with.
Yep.
But he really sells the Jester character. Mm-hmm. Dan Aykroyd's Scarecrow was pretty obnoxious. But that was the only character that I was really, just not happy with. Patrick Stewart, they just kind of wasted. He has, 5 lines.
Sing me a song.
Yeah.
Sing to me.
He's you could tell that they just had him for an afternoon, or they got him in a hotel room at a convention somewhere and said, "Could you read 4 lines for us and be in our movie?" Yeah. So that's the good side. The bad side is that the character development goes absolutely nowhere. With the original movie, you get to know the characters one at a time. It builds them up. You know who they are. Here, we don't really know much about the owl. We don't really know much about the marshmallow guy. the China princess. We don't really
Yeah.
get to know them very well. They sort of have personalities.
Yeah. Which they kind of bring through the songs that they sing. Because, like, the Marshmallow guy, Marshall Mello?
Marshall Mello.
Okay, I'm just going to sidetrack real quick. The name play and things that they do off of everything, it's just so cliche.
Yeah.
Everything is just super cliche.
Well, and there's one scene that has, like, rapid fire puns and jokes that I thought actually worked. And if the whole movie had been like that, it could have actually gone, like, the courtroom scene where they're talking about the Peeps and the Peanut Gallery, and it's just one after another, just really quick. It's like, where was this for the first 25 minutes of the movie?
Yeah.
But the songs are god awful.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, they're bad. The first song is a really terrible, like, stopgap for Somewhere Over the Rainbow. It's Dorothy singing by herself. She's still in Kansas. The movie also has this problem of Kansas and Oz are identically shown, like, they're both goofy physics and weird characters.
Yeah.
And,
there really is no
there's
base
no distinction.
reality. Like, yeah, like they kind of have a similar play to it. Like, the destruction in Kansas mirrors the destruction in Oz. Like, there's this force of evil that's come through Kansas, and there's also this force of evil that's come through Oz. The parallels are so similar that it's like, I don't know, when she's taken away, it's not like she's actually taken away. She's just fixing all these problems.
Yeah, well, and they just move her.
Yeah.
Like, she literally moves, like, across water, and then she's in Oz. But there's this point where, so the Jester is the villain in Oz, and in Kansas he's the, like,
he's some sort of, like, federal agent.
yeah, he's like in charge of condemning the buildings that were hit by the tornado. And when his character first shows up in Kansas, he shows up in this car that does this physics-defying, like, Ace Ventura jump.
Yeah.
That completely says, like, okay, this whole, like, the whole universe is this way. It's not, Oz isn't special. Kansas is just as crazy and goofy as Oz is.
Why was it pink? Were they trying to throw you off, do you think? Because the car was pink at first.
Yeah.
But his main colors were purple and green. Sometimes purple and black. I don't know. It was all
purple and black, and then at the end he was like black and white.
I felt like they couldn't just pick something and stick with it. Like, they either wanted to be very serious, or they wanted to be very comedic, or they wanted to be very thematic, or they wanted to be very symbolic. Like, they couldn't just choose something and stick with it. They wanted to flip flop on every little piece of.
Yeah, and there were scenes that were really visually appealing and gorgeous. There were, like, a couple of scenes where the Tin Man, the Scarecrow, and the Lion are in the Emerald Palace,
the old wizard chamber.
Yeah, the wizard chamber, and that was really, like, well art directed and animated.
Yeah,
but, like, the final encounter, I couldn't really, like, place where people were in relation to one another.
Yeah.
Like, where's the Jester versus where, like, everybody falls off this tower and then they're all in different spots.
And there's this little mini battle that happens with all this candy.
Yeah.
I mean, like, there's parts of it that were like, okay, there's funny parts, like the lion with the slow-mo is funny, but then you don't know, like, what else is going on, and there's just a lot happening, and
it really felt like this was like there were different people that animated different sections of the movie.
Yeah.
Or produced different sections of the movie, to where, the tone would shift a little bit, or there'd be a scene that was fairly well animated followed by a scene that was really badly animated.
Yeah.
There's a scene that's in the trailer where the dainty China princess says to Dorothy that she thought she would be taller.
Yeah.
And that's the one that's really blocked weird, where everyone's just sort of standing in a line for no reason.
Yeah.
There's just weird things like there's there's a bunch of mice that show up, and all the mice are exactly identical.
Yeah. I forgot about those.
Just things
for
that
like a second.
Things that you wouldn't get away with in a modern, 3D animated movie, but people 10, 15, 20 years ago. So I think a lot of people have ragged on this movie about the animation and the graphics and the look of it. I honestly don't. It didn't bother me that much. Really, the animation. I more had problems with just not a lot of. There weren't really any characters that like became new favorites. There wasn't anybody.
Yeah.
Like I don't see kids like thinking that Marshall Mallow and the China Princess or the Owl or I don't see them.
They wouldn't get like their action figures.
Similar to the problem with Return to Oz, where like no one really got into those characters. Yeah. Nobody wanted to be the Gump. Nobody decided that was their new favorite Oz character. And that's a shame, because there's a lot of good stuff in the L. Frank Baum books, and it just seems like nobody can really pull it off. In the original Wizard of Oz, there was a song that was cut that actually would have sunk that movie. There's a song called the Jitterbug.
Jitterbug, yeah. And I've actually performed like that song and done dance for it when I was younger.
Yeah,
it's a terrible song,
and it would have dated the movie terribly, and really just like stuck it in 1939, and just never. It would be the song that everybody hates, and but they wisely cut it out. And this thing has those sort of anachronistic problems where the musical style is very. It's kind of dated even for now, but it's very like 2000s sounding.
Well, it almost seemed like they were trying to match. Almost like a Disney film, like Frozen. Like there were moments of it where the musical montages, the way that the songs were composed, the tone of the songs, everything was just like they're trying to compare themselves to this other grand scale, and they couldn't ever find it. They could never get there. It always fell flat.
Yeah, and they seem to write songs that were based on who they were writing it for. The song that Hugh Dancy and the China Princess and Dorothy sing, like that's written for those people's voices. And then the songs that Martin Short sings are written for his voice. Yeah. And, Martin Short he can sing, but he's not, he's not as great as some of the female cast, and so they scale it back for him.
Yeah.
But the lyrics are just desperately bad. Just things barely rhyme. They barely make sense. They hardly progress the plot.
Yeah.
They don't really tell you anything about the characters. It's like, we're padding time. Let's pad some more time with the padding.
I loved you, and I remembered that I loved you.
I love you now.
I love you now.
I loved you then, like I loved you now. Like I loved you then, like I loved you now.
Go Marshall Mello.
Yeah.
You go Marshall Mello. I wanted to say Marshall Mathers the whole time. I wanted him to rap. If he would have rapped, it would have been so much better.
If Eminem had done the voice of the Marshall Mello,
and then he just
would have been awesome.
Spit some game in the middle of it.
Yeah. Talking about anachronistic dating things. But there's just no, like, Return to Oz has kind of a cult following now, and back in the day that was a movie people didn't care for. It was not very well received. It was just kind of scary and weird for kids. This movie, like, I think kids will watch it, and I think in 20 years kids will still watch it, but they, it just won't be something that it's not an event. It's not something you get excited about going to see. And unfortunately, I mean, I wish I could tell you, like, this is so bad you have to go see it. You know, it's the animated version
Right.
of The Room. Go see how badly they messed this up. It's like, no, it's just kind of
like
lame.
The Room, though. I mean, is there anything that's like that? that movie is so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you're right.
Yeah.
You can't even set people up to be like, just go and riff on it, you know, with your buddies. Because even sitting there, I was just like, well, okay, there's a few things here we could do, but like, okay, I don't know. Like, I don't want to. Yeah, it just didn't really have any big.
I mean,
fulfillment.
There's Thomas the Tank Engine like movies, direct to DVD movies that are worse than this.
Yeah.
You know, there's animated 3D Barbie movies that are worse than this. So it's not like prime bad animation material. There's nothing offensive about it. There's nothing that's really ridiculous or over the top. It's just an okay movie. And so I think the question, you know, the question still remains: why is this a theatrical release? Why wasn't it just a direct-to-DVD thing? But it probably has gotten more publicity and things for this, for being out like this, and probably a lot of people will check it out when it does come out on, you know, Netflix or DVD now. So
yeah.
So anyway, that's our review. We did it for you.
That's the one.
Thanks for watching. That was Legends of Oz, Dorothy's Return. Check out our other movie reviews here on YouTube or over at dalemaxfield.com. Thanks for watching.